Minutes is sponsored in part by Digital Dowsing. Who are you powered by?
For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard. We will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
I am Dracula.
Good evening. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. Yeah. Welcome. We have set the mothership down right here in Romania, the heart of Dracula country, and we're talking about the real Dracula tonight. It's going to be amazing and awesome. We've got video clips, pictures galore, and all kinds of yummy things to show you. So first, I want to say hello to my only crewmates tonight. I guess not the only. There are two here. Andrew and Oddbot 3000. How are you tonight?
Jeff, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, you're kind of looking a little pale, Jeff. You okay?
You know, I'm feeling better. Earlier in the week, I was definitely doing a lot worse. Take a look at this photo. Definitely doing better now, I'm glad to say. Yes, thank you. Brett from Behold Designs turned me into a zombie. And I think that's an improvement. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd shoot you.
Oh, nice. Aim for the head. Go
right,
for the brain.
Right in the head.
Yeah, feeling better now, but definitely a little peckish still. But what can you do? So, Andrew, I understand we have an announcement. We have something to say this week. What's up?
Yeah, I believe so. I got this.
Thanks,
We have thank you to Lake County Peg TV in California for picking up our transmissions. When we take over the world, your loyalty will be rewarded.
Yay.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Yeah, and we've got an email. It says, hi, Jeff and all the Oddballs team. Just to say I watch your show in Hull, England on the podcast on iTunes. Looking forward to seeing the Dracula one. Keep up the great work. Heather Coe, Hull, England. Thanks, Heather. We will.
Yay, Hull, England. All right, awesome. Hey, reminds us, it's free. You can watch our show on iTunes. You can download it there. You can go to 30oddminutes.com, watch all our previous episodes, all for free, or you can find it at a station near you. Now, I said earlier, actually, wait, before I get to that, Andrew, I do have a question for you. This has been making the rounds lately. Would you buy a house that had a for sale sign like this one in the front?
No, that house is no good.
Kind of boring.
No, it's got to have at least 4 ghosts.
Right, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 4 ghosts. Absolutely, good thinking, good thinking.
2 up, 2 down.
Right. Okay, so earlier this week we told our own Dr. Dreck about that we'd be talking about vampires here in Romania. The guy is always looking to make a buck. Take a look at what he put together.
Greetings, oddballs. Dr. Dreck here. We're talking about Dracula today, and not many people know this, but I am an old friend of Dracula. As a matter of fact, when we were flying over Transylvania not long ago, I dropped in to see him, and we were just talking about things in general, and we suddenly got this great money-making idea. We thought, you know something? There's no such thing as a soft drink for vampires. And we came up with one. Here's the prototype. We call it Dracola. Yes, it's made with carbonated blood with high blood sugar, so it's nice and sweet, and also contains that special ingredient, caffeine. Yes, to bring out the fiend in you. And all we need now is just some financial backing. So anybody that wants to get on the ground floor of this great new marketing idea, send me, a few $1 million in care of the station here or right to the ship. Dracola should go over really big. And as we're going to say at the Dracola Company, if you drink Dracola every day, then you will resurrect every night. And you know what I mean. Remember what Dracula himself says.
Things go dead with Dracola.
Thank you, Dr. Dreck. And happy birthday. Today's his birthday. And not only that,
happy birthday.
Tomorrow's my dad's birthday. Happy birthday, Dad. Thanks for watching. That's if we didn't have him, our viewership would be cut in half at least. So thank you. Appreciate it. All right, vampires are all the rage these days. They sparkle. Former presidents hunt them. They're sexy. The concept of vampires have been around for many centuries. But if there was one figure we could all point to and say that is the reason for all of this, it would be Vlad Tepes, also known as Vlad the Impaler or simply Dracula. A word that means son of the dragon, Vlad Tepes lived in Transylvania, which is modern-day Romania, from 1431 to 1477. His legend is so powerful, it's made its way into history books, literature, art, film, and popular culture. Tonight's guest just got back from a trip to Romania to trace the footsteps of Dracula. He's co-author of The Other Side, he's the host of Darkness Radio, and was chief judge on Paranormal Challenge on the Travel Channel. Please welcome live from Minneapolis, Dave Schrader. Good evening. Thank you so much. Thank you. Dave, welcome back. Your triumphant return to 30-odd minutes.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back. Thanks a lot for having me, Jeff.
Absolutely. So you were in Transylvania, sort of, Romania, for very recently. What did you think? What was your first impressions of the country?
You know, it was absolutely more than I could have ever hoped for. Honestly, American culture has got it wrong. So many people are terrified of Romania, thinking that it's thick with thieves and all kinds of nasty ne'er-do-wells, and it was actually very nice there. Beautiful landscapes. The people were very friendly and very American, fans, I guess you'd say. They were very cool with all of us that were there for the tours.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, you were there for one reason I know, and that was to trace the steps of Vlad the Impaler, Dracula, and do some ghost hunting in some of these castles. We are going to hear about all that. But let's start with this guy, Vlad the Impaler. We showed him a second ago. Who was this guy? Lived in the 1400s. Tell us a little bit about him.
Well, I was surprised to find out that this guy that so many people have heard about in the legend and lore, he is just like this living monster. He would impale people to make an example of them. He would dine among their impaled bodies in what was called the impaled forest. Just a creepy guy, but as you actually deal a little bit more into the history of this guy, he was actually more of a hero to the people there. Because when he was in charge, man, people did not mess with them. He was a brilliant leader. Actually, one of the biggest things they ever did, he and his group dressed as Turks and snuck into the Ottoman camp one night and just got everything all fired up, everybody going against each other, and then he and his group left and allowed them to battle each other, killing themselves, while he and his group sat safely elsewhere. But he really kind of ruled with an iron fist. He really took care of his people and made sure that the land was safe. And when merchants would come and try to screw his people, he would make an example of them by impaling them. I mean, granted, his tactics were a little maybe extreme, but at the time, and when you realize what was going on with the Huns and the Turks and the culture at that time, he had to do something dramatic in order to really make a statement. And I think he had a pretty good PR guy too. I don't know that there were really mountainsides filled with impaled people. There might have been 2 or 3. And they just the legend kind of blew up from there.
If you photograph him real close, it can look like a lot. It's all in the photography. One of my favorite Vlad legends is called the Legend of the Golden Cup. And the story goes that he was a fierce but honest leader, and he placed a golden cup on the center square in Trigovist, and the story goes the cup was never stolen. People knew, don't mess with it. It's the king's cup, and they knew if the cup was ever missing, then he must be gone. And just one of the many stories about how ruthless but honest that he was. He kept the peace, and if you were one of his subjects, I'm sure that's a very good thing. The reason, of course, that we know so much about Dracula, I think you have to go backwards from Bram Stoker, of course, who wrote the book Dracula in the late 1800s. There he is, Bram Stoker himself. And so he wrote Dracula in 1897, which really reinvigorated the legend and brought it to the rest of the world. I'm not sure people in 1897 in America really knew much about him. But Dracula wasn't just based on Vlad, correct?
Right, and the whole thing, the whole concept is what's amazing. Bram Stoker never once stepped foot in Romania or Transylvania. He literally had a friend who came back and described the territory, described the stories of the landscape, described the people that lived there. And then there was the famous story of Vlad Tepes, who, again, ruled with this iron fist and was so ruthless. And then there was a countess at the same time that was well known for bathing in the blood of virgins in order to keep herself young looking.
Right.
And this
is someone.
Pardon me, I'm trying to.
Very rude.
Anyway, she would bathe in the blood of virgins. Well, Bram Stoker took this story and melded the story of Vlad Tepes with the Blood Countess, and that's where the real lore of Dracula came about. But as you actually start to explore, and as we talk about it tonight, you'll see how his story weaves so beautifully into vampire culture. I mean, you couldn't have written it better, and that's his real history with what he was involved in and the mystery of his death.
Absolutely, and that was, of course, Elizabeth Bathory, I believe is the pronunciation. There she is. Allegedly the most prolific female serial killer ever, upwards of 650 people. She would...
Which is
like
a shame, because she's kind of cute.
She's kind of cute because she bathed in the blood of virgins, 650 of them.
Hey, whatever works, It
comes at a price. What a girl does for beauty, right? So an incredible story and brings to light, and really Bram Stoker, what he did was he made vampires kind of sexy and alluring. That was the start of not...
Oh, no. Actually, Bram Stoker, he brought this guy to life. If you actually read the story of his version of Dracula, this is very much who he represented. The creepy bald guy with the pointed ears, the pointed nose, the pointy teeth, the rat-like features and face. And Nosferatu was probably one of the closest incarnations to what Bram Stoker had created with his story and novelization.
And you're not attracted at all?
I'm sorry?
You're not attracted to that figure at all?
Well, I mean, we do share something in common.
Hey.
So, this is Mini Nas. He spent the entire time in Romania with me investigating, so it was kind of fun. And you'd see he'd be hanging from my backpack, and you'd have all of these people watching as we'd go walking along in the square, and they'd be pointing at my backpack and laughing. They were very cool, like I said, about understanding why we were there. And I think, they said that they should probably canonize Bram Stoker, because without him, Romania's tourism would be nothing.
Yeah. No, it's clearly a huge part of it. Okay, well, let's start at the beginning. You actually got to eat dinner, correct, at the birthplace of Vlad?
Right, yeah, this beautiful little picturesque town. And when you go there, I'm waiting for Belle from Beauty and the Beast to come walking out, singing and reading one of her books. It's just a gorgeous little town, but this is Casa Vlad or Casa Dracula, and that is a little restaurant cafe. And it was just a one-level place when he lived there and when he was born, and then they've added onto it. But the food there was delicious. The people that worked there were fantastic. It was really, really cool inside, and they had some amazing art. Full statue of Vlad. They had this beautiful mural that kind of showed his whole story on the wall. It was really an amazing place.
Now tell me, you told me earlier that your hotel room in this town, you actually had an experience. We have a picture of your hotel room. What happened?
Well, I call it the Harry Potter suite. We get into this little place, it's called Casa Wagner. And as you're seeing, you're kind of looking at a view of my room. And I was laying on the bed the first night we were there, and right outside my window, they are an industrious group. At about 7 o'clock in the morning, they were out there hammering and sawing. So, with a good haunting, anytime you start messing around and changing things, it seems to inspire ghostly activity. Well, I was just irritated because I'm woken up at 7 o'clock in the morning by banging and sawing, so I was flipping and flopping in bed. And if you could show that picture one more time, as I'm laying there in the bed, I heard footsteps walking along the end of the bed there. Now, again, at this point, I'm kind of dismissing it because I have the wooden trellis right outside my window. But that corner of the bed you can see, all of a sudden, boom, somebody sat down on that side of the bed. My entire bed shook, and I could feel the indent from them hitting it, and I sat up. There was nobody in my room. This was totally unexpected. We were not told this was a haunted hotel. I don't even think that our tour guides understood that this was a haunted hotel. But as we all got back on the bus that day and started relating our stories about what had happened, many different people had experiences, things touching them in the dark, things hovering above their bed, strange lights. Some of the rooms were dropped to drastically cold, and there was no air conditioning. I mean, it was really weird how you'd be sweating in one room and you'd walk in the next, and all of a sudden the temperature would just go out. It was really, really amazing. Beautiful hotel, and that's part of why I'm psyched about going back there. When I go, now I know what I'm facing. I'm going to spend some time investigating that hotel as well.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You know, you're in a different country. There's so much to learn, so much to take in. So, all right, let's go from the birthplace of Vlad. Let's go to Bran Castle, which is often called Dracula's castle, but not for the right reasons. Am I correct?
Right, and with Bran Castle, this is kind of the template that Bram Stoker based Dracula's castle on. This is what people come to Romania thinking they're staying in. The tourism guides, they certainly don't detract from letting you think that that's Dracula's castle. And there are little vendors all around Bran Castle. They're selling Dracula wear, mugs and T-shirts and toys and everything. So they lead it to, but it's a beautiful old castle that really has absolutely no connection to Dracula whatsoever, other than the fact that this is the prototype and the stereotypical look of what the castle was that Bram Stoker was going for in his novel.
Yeah, and you get to go in there. We get to see some of the courtyard as well. You can see the inside a bit. Looks like a beautiful place, though. It was built in 1212. Was the earliest parts destroyed and then rebuilt in 1377. We don't have stuff this old in America. I mean, what's it like walking in places that old?
That is what's so amazing. Jeff, here I am in Minnesota, and they're complaining about our 25-year-old Metrodome and that
Right.
it's a piece of junk. And here I'm walking around in these streets where these houses have stood for 300, 400, 500 years, and they're still gorgeous. The landscapes are amazing, but you go into these buildings in this gorgeous cathedral-like castle. It was absolutely awe-inspiring, and we had experiences. A few of the girls were in there, and in Queen Mary's room, the drawing room, two different girls on two different occasions during our investigation or during our walkthrough felt as though hands grabbed them by the throat and began to choke the life out of them. That was really uncanny. One girl, Shelby Record, had that occur, and she was out, I guess, a little later in the courtyard when Shelley, another girl, had come out and complained about this, and then they realized they both had the same experience in this room at Bran Castle. So this whole place is ripe with paranormal activity.
Wow, amazing stuff. All right, Dave, hang with us. We're going to take a quick news break. When we come back, we're going to continue this Dracula tour of Romania. Be right back.
Canadian authorities have pressed charges on a cattle rancher named Werner Bach for failure to provide his livestock with proper medical care. Bach, who lost nearly 250 cows in the last 10 years, claims that he is not responsible for the death of his animals. The rancher insists that it is the work of aliens using some sort of death ray which poisons the air around the cattle, causing them to die a slow and wasting death. Bach has posted several YouTube videos showing the sad state of his dying cows. His trial begins in September of 2012. Someone should ask Dr. Dreck if he knows anything about this. In other news, a recent archaeological dig in Sozopol, Bulgaria, has unearthed the remains of two vampires. After the graves were uncovered, closer examination revealed that the bodies of the deceased had been staked to the ground with iron rods. Historians say that this was common practice in the Balkans for many centuries. Apparently, if someone had been a bad person when they were alive, it was believed that they would become a vampire after death and rise from the grave to prey on the living. Folks in Bulgaria were still impaling suspected vampires in their graves right up into the early part of the 20th century. So far, nearly 100 such burials have been discovered throughout the country. 6 of those were found in the town of Debelt in 2004. Like I said before, I'm from Rhode Island. We don't take any chances either. Back to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Andrew. So, Dave, vampires still in the news, still uncovering graves where people dealt with this long before Bram Stoker, long before, oh my God, that's freaking me out a little bit.
Hang on, just let me get him out of here. Hold on. There we go.
Classy Schrader. So vampires of old were consumption victims, were people with tuberculosis, the walking dead. They suck the life out of you. People dealt with them in all kinds of ways. Driving stakes through the heart was not so much about putting wood into the heart, but nailing corpses down to the ground so they couldn't get up. An incredible place. We're going to run out of time if we don't keep moving. Let's jump to the next castle you went to. I'm going to pronounce this wrong for our viewers at home. I believe, is it Honodora?
No, that's right. It was Honodora Castle.
Yay.
Nicely done.
Honodora, take a look.
And
there it is. Beautiful. Another beautiful castle.
This place was amazing, Jeff. And this is where it was reported that Vlad Tepes may have spent as many as 7 years in prison at one point. And this castle, again, our group was allowed to investigate. So we were invited in to see it during daylight. We had a beautiful dinner there. And then they shut down the lights. We were allowed to investigate. And I'll tell you, again, I was very skeptical. I mean, how are we going to find anything in this? This is hundreds and hundreds of years old. But we were separated in about 6, 7 different groups throughout the entire castle. And what was interesting was, as we came together, many people were sharing the same stories from all different parts of the castle. Small stones were being thrown across and singing across the room, hitting people, skittering across the floor. And it was dark, but not dark enough that you couldn't see each other. So we could tell if each other were throwing rocks. And as a matter of fact, one of the girls in our group, Addie, was sitting on the floor underneath this little kind of ledge. And as she was talking, she ducked her head down and said, "Wow, what was that?" And on her backpack was this rock about this big. Good-sized rock.
Yeah.
And we tried everything we could to recreate dropping it where it could have come from, but there was no place we could drop it where it didn't make a huge, loud thud. So, we had no idea where these were coming from. But then, as we're coming down from that tower doing an peace sweep, Andrea Carter from Canada and one of the other girls, Sonia, a doctor that was with our group, said, "I sensed something in this hallway." So we all kind of stopped and we were getting our bearings. And I heard very distinctly the sound of feet walking across that rocky ground. And I turned to look, and there's this long cut window in the side of the wall. And as I'm looking at the window, this full figure walks right past the window.
Oh my gosh.
At first, I'm trying to think, did I just see this? And Andrea Carter goes, "Did you just see that person walk in front of the window?" And they would have had to go right to the wooden steps and began walking up. That's the only place they could have escaped. There was no way to walk up those steps without making a racket. We were hot on their heels. It was amazing. There was nobody there. And we were having experiences like that the whole night at this castle. It was really phenomenal, and it was a beautiful sight to investigate.
Yeah, amazing. Sounds amazing. All right, speaking of steps, let's get to the real Dracula castle. Let's start with 1,400 steps up. What was this like, climbing to the top of this mountain?
I will tell you, I want to thank all of my listeners and friends from Darkness Radio. I was worried. I have bad knees and a bad back, and I realized I had to walk up 1,480 stairs to see the actual Dracula's castle. I stuck with a little group at the end. We stayed at the end, and we encouraged each other on while everybody else ran up. And I got to give props where props are due. One of the girls actually made it up there, Kim. She made it up in 15 minutes.
Wow.
Up 1,480 stairs. And Shailene was right behind her, so they did an amazing deal. The rest of us took about an hour to get up to the top of those stairs. We encouraged each other, but it was beautiful. When you get up there, here it is, the actual remains of the castle that Vlad Tepes called home.
And you're greeted before you get in, right? You've got this wonderful sight.
Right, yeah,
Nice.
They've got the impaled people right outside of there. So we go in, and part of the castle is actually collapsed in the 1800s off the side of one of the cliffs. But there are the remains of the building there. So as we're walking around and kind of just checking it out, Joshua Warren from Speaking of Strange was on hand, and he started breaking out some equipment.
Right. Perfect segue. And here's a field report you filed. Take a look, folks.
This is Dave Schrader, special report for 30-odd minutes. We're at the top of Dracula's castle in Romania with Joshua P. Warren. Now, Joshua, you've gone around the entire installation here and you've been taking measurements, and you think you found the hot spot. Tell me a little bit about what's going on.
Absolutely. Of course, there shouldn't be much in the way of electrical activity here. We're in the middle of ruins. I've been walking all over this place, and it seems pretty clean, pretty normal. And then I stepped into this nook, and everything went bonkers. I've got at least 2 good devices here that can pick up a wide variety of different fields, and you might even be able to see an example. It's an erratic field. And when it hits hard.
Now explain to us, what's an erratic field?
It's something that's moving around the area. It's a transient field, so it's not stuck in one place like an artificial field coming from an antenna would be. This thing is actually traveling around. It's hard to find it. Oh, there it was right there.
But you've been spiking. I've heard a lot of squawking and clicks and whistles coming from it. And what kind of piece of equipment are we using?
This is the Dr. Gauss EMF meter, and even though it's calibrated for 50 to 60 hertz, it will pick up a much, much wider range of electromagnetic fields and electrostatic fields. Now let me tell you why I think this might be important. Even though this was a place of refuge for Vlad the Impaler, it harbored a lot of anguish for him because his wife committed suicide here. This castle was being attacked, and rather than be taken captive, she jumped to her death, possibly down this cliff. It looks like a good place to do that. Vlad, on the other hand, he actually was able to escape by horse. And so obviously he felt terrible and guilty the rest of his life that he had been able to escape, but his wife died. So if you compound the sadness and the tragedy of that for him personally, with all of the bloodshed and violence that surely took place within these walls, this is a very powerful location and prime grounds for a haunting, not to mention the fact that millions of people all over the world associate this place with the paranormal, and their energy may enhance what was already here.
Well done, sir. Nice field
Very well
report.
done.
Thank you. Pretty windy up there. So this remote mountain top, you've got this incredible castle. Did anything else happen in the ruins besides the weird spikes?
Nothing particularly up there. We just had the strange senses in some of the areas. Now, I will say we were using one of the tools. Shelby Record had used what's called the Eye Obelisk.
Yep.
You can find it on the iTunes store, and works like the obelisk device. And actually, it was not Vlad's wife, but his mistress, Ilona, who had thrown herself from the building. And the unit itself, the Eye Obelisk, started throwing out the name Ilona, which is not part of the lexicon dictionary that is pre-built into the Eye Obelisk. I checked with that immediately with our inventor, Bill Chappell, to see if he could shed a little light on it. He too was amazed that it came up with a Romanian name while we were there. One of the other things to mention, while we were in Romania, they did have an earthquake that struck. And so many weird things are known to happen around earthquake sites. And we were having a lot of activity at all the different locations we were going to. And Joshua was talking about the fact that the geological effects could actually be helping to energize those paranormal activities. And the strange thing is, the Eye Obelisk, Shelby's got the records of it, also mentions an earthquake.
Wild. Amazing stuff. Okay, let's get to the end of Vlad anyway. His grave. What city was his grave in? Was it Snagov? Is that...
Yeah, I believe Snagov. And it's interesting because you go to this little site, and it's like you're going through this little ghetto town to get to this, and then you have to walk over this long bridge till you get to the actual little church. What had happened was when they finally captured Vlad, they beheaded him, the Turks, and they put his head and preserved it in a jar of honey to take it back to prove that they killed him. Well, the monks collected his body and brought it back to this final resting spot and laid it to rest where they could safely protect and watch over it. And that's where the body remained. Now, this is interesting, Jeff. As I talked a little bit earlier about the lore of Dracula, 1931 was the release of course, Dracula the movie, Universal Studios classic starring Bela Lugosi. Now, tell me this isn't a great tie-in. They actually got permission to excavate his grave. And when they dug it up in 1931 to 35, in that time frame, they opened up a grave to find there was no body.
Whoa. And where is he now? Yeah, cue evil laughter. Very, very cool. Dave, thank you so much for sharing this tour with us. Next year, you're going back. And guess what, folks? I'm going with him. Dave and I will be hosting a trip next year. You can find more about it on our website. We can send you links to it. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see this stuff. Thank you for sharing the photos, the experience, an incredible place, an incredible story. We talk about this guy centuries and centuries after his death, and the legend lives on and grows. All right, very good. Folks, it's time to fire up the engines. We got to take off out of here, slide out of Romania, back into hyperspace. From all of us to all of you, until next time, stay odd.
Yeah.